Bocadoro on behalf of the Coalition for a Sustainable Delta. I did want to spend a couple moments today talking about the issue of predation on endangered species, particularly salmon and smelt in the Delta. The Commission now has a long and unfortunately continuing history of avoiding the discussion on this issue. We recognize this is not a popular issue for the Commission. We know the sport fishing industry does not take kindly to the discussion. We understand that, but if not by this Commission, rest assured the issue is going to get addressed, either by the legislature, by Congress, or back in the courts, which is where this started about 5 years ago. The water community, the farming community, and other water users in the state are increasingly frustrated. We see other state agencies, such as the State Water Resources Control Board, taking actions. Those actions are costing a lot of water. And those actions for temperature controls, for example, that keep salmon fry alive in the upper reaches of the river are lost when those smolts come down and are confronted by striped bass and black bass and devoured. And so we have to get the agencies in the state working together if we're going to restore these species. Salmon and smelt are on the verge of extinction. Salmon are headed in that direction. And we're going to have to be willing to make some difficult decisions, take some steps to address that. There's still an opportunity. I think the water users are frustrated. We'd like the Commission to be part of this discussion in a proactive, productive way. Denying the petition, the recommendation to deny the petition by staff sent a very strong message that that wasn't the case. Hopefully we didn't misinterpret that, but there is an opportunity for the Commission to be engaged in this issue. We encourage that. We would look forward to that discussion, but something needs to get done on this issue. It's critical. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Let me suggest that I don't think we are trying to avoid the discussion. We plan to have the discussion. It was actually the Sustainable Delta Coalition that asked to remove it from the agenda today.
Understood.
My suggestion is if the department's willing and if my fellow commissioners agree that we actually agendize for a future meeting, probably not till December or later, depending on the department's ability to do this, or for a WRC. I'll let the staff and the department determine where the best place for a discussion is, but let's have a full presentation from the department on this issue. There's a lot going on it. There's at least 3 studies that I know of that are going on right now on predation as a result of the settlement on the lawsuit, and so an update on those as well as the issue in general would be, I think, very helpful if the other commissioners agree that that would be useful.
And excuse me,
Please,
President Sklar, I could go ahead today and agree with that suggestion. I think that's consistent with public forum agenda item, which says Commission may entertain scheduling it on a subsequent agenda. And for the speaker's benefit, I did cover this topic a touch in my own director's report agenda item yesterday in day 1, where I mentioned that in my view, the question of predator-prey relationships in the Delta is an important one, that I believe the department concurs it's a legitimate issue between certain species which are eating legally protected species, that we have a paradox. It's one of the most heavily studied estuaries in the world, but also an estuary where we have a lot of scientific uncertainty remaining. And I went through many of the things the department has been doing since 2011. For example, we've awarded $1 million to 3 separate projects. Our federal National Oceanic Atmospheric Agency, actually an award went to Metropolitan Water District, and another went to the UC system, focused on researching the predation between non-listed and listed fish, which actually is requiring us, as a matter of science, to draw circles and eradicate the predators in certain locations in the South Delta. The core of the request we hear often to monitor prey and predation response. We've given a contract to UC Davis and NASA to increase our remote sensing techniques to map the distribution of different aquatic vegetation in the Delta, because it turns out aquatic vegetation creates cover for the predators. We have then begun a contract with DWR, Water Resources and Boating and Waterways at the state, to go in and see if we can remove the aquatic vegetation as a way to eliminate the preferable habitat for the predator and then change the predator-prey dynamic for the benefit of the listed fish. We're actually, with the Department of Water Resources, removing predators right now in Clifton Court Forebay to monitor the response, which caused some angst in the recreational fishing community in the Delta. So if there's a misimpression, the department rejects this problem, its seriousness of dealing with it, and is doing nothing. I want to kind of correct that misimpression. We'd welcome hosting a conversation, perhaps thinking about asking some scientists who have different views on the topic to come and present after the department's framing, and do that either at the Wildlife Resources Subcommittee or the commission, or the subcommittee, then the commission, at y'all's discretion.
Great. Thank you, Director Bonham. Director Commissioner Williams.
Absolutely. I would, as a chair of the WRC, would welcome that discussion, and happy to work with staff and both our staff and the department to figure out a suitable and appropriate way to get that on our calendar. And I would just say, not specifically to you, but to the public and stakeholders in general, I think if anybody's been watching this commission in the last year or so, they probably recognize that a recommendation is exactly that, and does not presume to represent what the commission will ultimately do. Again, I think the record bears that out. So to the degree that anybody out there sees a staff recommendation as the foregone conclusion of the commission and makes decisions on their own as a result of that, that's certainly your purview. But to assume that it's a losing cause, and therefore you take your issue elsewhere to another forum, again, also your prerogative. But I would just say that I would welcome an issue like this, and as important it is to the state and the parties involved. I think it's certainly one that is appropriate for this commission to take under consideration and to act on. And if the parties are willing, we are perfectly willing to be the forum for that. So
And very much appreciated. I'll just say, I think the frustration also stemmed from the lack of time provided to bring the scientists in to have a thoughtful discussion. And I think that can occur in a committee setting where they can, several hours can be set aside for the discussion. I'm going to leave some letters that were signed by over 20 state legislators on the issue that would have been part of the afternoon's presentation. I'll leave those with staff, but we welcome the discussion. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. And just on the question of time, we have enormous agendas with dozens and dozens of issues each day that will need to be discussed. We limit the time because of that, to be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
I believe, I may be wrong, and maybe some of the lawyers in the room can correct me. I think you get 7 minutes for oral arguments before the Supreme Court. We give 10 generally for presentations. And the reality is, if you have substantive, deep information, you present it in writing, and we read it carefully. And it's actually a better way to present complicated information. Oral arguments are to enhance and highlight a few points from the heavier record that we study. So I don't think it's entirely fair to say that 10 minutes during a commission meeting is an unfair amount. But
Fair.
thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Commissioners, if I may.
Please.
I think from what I'm hearing, it would be good to have this predation issue as a Wildlife Resources Committee meeting topic for future, so we can have a robust conversation. And like I mentioned to the petitioners on Friday, I think this warrants a really in-depth scientific discussion, so we could do it at a WRC meeting and then follow up at a commission meeting with a shorter, more appropriate meeting.
As long as the other commissioners agree, I think that's a great way to go. Commissioner Williams, thank you. Okay.